Hi, welcome to Big Brother's Big Brain, the show that knows psychology is actually rocket science. On tonight's show, we've got those hoary old chestnuts, deprivation and cognitive dissonance. But don't get too alarmed. I promise you at least one mention of oral sex, we all know what that means, and another hit from the Glyn Jukebox. We all love the Glyn Jukebox. First up, though, it might look like one big holiday being in the house, but the housemates are suffering. Here to talk about the deprivation in the house as our psychologist, well, we'd miss if they weren't around, Rachel Morris and Harry Witchel. Yo. Hello, Harry. Yo yourself. So then, Harry, you're going to blind us with the science, and Rachel, you're going to enlighten us on the effects of deprivation in the house. Harry, the definition of deprivation, if you will.
Right. Deprivation is a kind of suffering. That's when you don't get what you're attached to. So the things you think you can't live without that you don't have. Two really important points about deprivation. The most important thing is that if you're deprived of something for a long time, you switch over completely. So you go from actually thinking about it all the time to not actually thinking about it at all. Another thing is that...
So like cold turkey almost.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And another thing that's quite interesting is when you're deprived of something, your hedonic value, that is how much pleasure you get from something, increases from that stimulus you've been deprived of.
What does that mean? So you actually...
I don't even know what that means.
No, but so you actually, you get over it after a while?
No, if you're deprived of something, you'll get much more pleasure if they give it back to you.
Oh, I see, right.
Yeah.
Rachel, in terms of the housemates then, what are they missing the most?
The most important things that they're missing at the moment are communication with the outside world, those, phone call friends and family. They're not having any intellectual or emotional stimulus either. They've got no reading material, they've got no music, they've got no writing or creativity.
And they don't get that from each other?
Absolutely not.
OK.
No.
And what else are they missing?
And, of course, they're not having any sex.
OK, we'll start with communication. Keep it light. Last week, the housemates actually had a bit of communication from the outside world in the shape of the letters. Let's take a look. That Richard letter killed me. I've watched it 3 times. You're crying now in the front row, look. Harry, we just saw how important letters are from home to the group. But what are the effects of a little bit of communication from the outside world?
Okay, so the pattern that they're getting is that they're not being consistently deprived. It's deprivation, reward, and then more deprivation. So they get the sense, they almost get the feeling that they can have some of it. And for the others who didn't get it, it's devastating. And even for the people who did get some, they still want more of it. Now they can't shut themselves off.
So is that almost worse for them? Because they've had a little bit, they've had that letter from home, and now they think, well, now I want a video message.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that. OK, Rachel, Big Brother went on holiday this weekend. What impact did that have on the house? I mean, it looked quite flippant, but was there an impact?
It's quite impacting, because in the Big Brother house, you have to remember, for those housemates, the Big Brother house is the whole world.
Right.
The world only actually extends as far as Davina on eviction night and the mysterious public that votes them in or out.
They're there.
Oh, absolutely. And they're very
mysterious.
mysterious looking at them now, I can tell you. So this is the whole world for them. Big Brother becomes the parent. The Big Brother is the person who doles out the punishments and also doles out the rewards. So in the first 5 minutes of them being away, it's woohoo! Mm-hmm. We're on holiday, we're free, we can do what we like. But if they'd have been allowed to go a little bit longer, you would have found them actually milling around looking for a new leader.
Sure.
They would have been very, very unhappy.
OK, let's move on to lack of intellectual and emotional stimulus. What's the key here, guys?
Well, they're, as Rachel said before, they're not getting anything to do with, say, drawing, writing, but they're missing music, and that's the most important thing. The music is really powerful. It can give people all sorts of effects with regard to being able to get along with one another, but most importantly, people use it for emotional control. So people can get pleasure from music. It can even stimulate the same parts of your brain as, say, cocaine, heroin.
Really?
Yeah, and sex as well. The same forward part of the brain.
Because they go nuts when they hear music. They all sort of gather in the same place.
That's part of
more so this year than I think any other year.
Absolutely. Part of the pattern that we've seen is that because they've actually been deprived of music, they then really respond very strongly to music, and they cease to be fussy. They'll take any music. I just saw them, they actually are dancing to the Muzak Big Brother is playing it. They're dancing to Muzak.
It's also access to emotional values. That not everything that's happening in the Big Brother house is going to stimulate all of their emotions, whereas music reaches some parts of them that other Big Brother things can't reach.
OK, Glyn and Pete, the 2 music makers in the house. Glyn through his interesting singing, and Pete's obviously a very talented musician. I'm not saying it is, but could that be tactical? I mean, if the musicians are holding the power...
If it was anybody else in the house making themselves the favourite housemates by pumping out music all the time, it maybe could have been manipulative, but in the hands of these two guys who are just adorable, there isn't a manipulative bone in their bodies, really.
Okay.
I think they're doing it because they need it.
That's
and
right.
everybody else is enjoying it, and that's great, but for them, they're doing it because they need it.
OK, finally, sex or lack of it. The average person has sex twice a week.
Is that all?
Yeah. you get
Stone-faced
nothing.
is what I'm being... Where, she's saying. I don't know where. Presumably the houses, young lady. Harry, please do the science bit. What are the physiological effects of sex deprivation?
So in the house, sex
Yeah.
is the one thing that people are consistently deprived of in this house. But they're also, because they're living together, constantly being reminded of it. So in many ways, they're going to have, if you like, a kind of withdrawal from it. It would likely to create some kind of agitation amongst them. Oh, interestingly, for men, there are physiological effects that can increase the amount of semen they have, and it will also increase the amount of sperm, but I'm afraid they don't swim as well, so it's more stuff, but it's less quality.
Oh, Harry.
Sorry,
I was
guys.
hoping we would get onto this mucky talk. Some housemates haven't had sex for 10 weeks. That is some sex debt. So, effectively, all the boys and Ashleen seem to be missing sex. How is the lack of sex affecting the house?
Well, obviously, it's having an interesting effect in the fact that they're all walking around talking about how sexed up they are. But I think it's really, really good for them. In these days, these sexual-free days where young people can go and, you know, get all of their ego strengthening from having sex with somebody on a one-night stand or even just, you know, whatever, I think it's really good because it's forcing them to have to acknowledge themselves outside of their sexuality. They're going to have intimate relations with people in the house, without going for the easy route of having sex. It's a lot harder to develop a friendship than it is just to end up in the sack with somebody.
Is it?
Yes! Oh, Dermot.
No.
Back to school.
OK, thank you very much, Harry and Rachel, everyone.